Good afternoon. Welcome to the NextGen 2024 Open Door Series. Today, we'll be talking about careers in finance. My name is Hassan Animashaun. I work with the NextGen team based in Lagos. NextGen is a non-profit organization that was founded to bridge the gap amongst Muslims in the career space. We noticed a lack of, Muslim representation in different industries and career paths, including careers in finance, in technology, consulting, law, and, different careers. So NextGen was created to bridge that gap, give people access to, mentors, give them access to information, access to opportunities, just to bridge that gap. And today I am excited to invite our speaker, who is a finance professional. Our speaker today is Azeezat Taiwo. She's an investment professional with the International Finance Corporation, IFC. She has experience in investment banking, finance, private credit. She studied accounting at Obafemi Awolowo University and finished with a first class. She's also a CFA charter holder, an ACCA affiliate, and a chartered member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. I would be handing over the floor to her now to talk to us about our journey, walk us through careers in finance, how we can get into finance. Looking forward to the discussions. Thank you. Hi, Azizat. We can start now.
Can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Hear you.
Yes, I can.
I'll connect on my computer. Azeezat Taiwo, one International Finance Corporation, where we sort of provide financing to companies in the private sector. So that's what IFC is about. But myself, I have been in career finance space for right now. I am in Lagos, Nigeria, but I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. So today I'm just going to walk you through my journey so far. How did I get into finance or investment banking how did combine my professional certifications, young age. I consider where I am right now and what lessons it's
Yeah, hi everyone. Can anyone hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we couldn't hear the moderator speaker earlier.
Yeah, please give us a moment. She's going to join back and we are going to continue.
Okay, all right, all right.
Yeah, in the meantime, please, if you can share where you are joining the call from, maybe your state or maybe your university in the chat box. Thank you. Apologies again. Our speaker is going to be joining soon. Please invite your friends to join the session.
Hi guys, apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hi, Azeezat.
I am so sorry.
Apology accepted.
Sorry, it's Nigerian network, and which was why I started with I am in Nigeria for a reason. So in case my network goes off again, I'm literally borrowing someone's hotspot right now. Okay. Back to sorry, say that again.
Misunderstood. We all understand that.
Okay, okay. I don't know where I lost you guys. But I'll just try to do a recap. So three key areas I want to address today: my journey so far, how did I get into finance, where I am now, what are the lessons I've learned so far, and how did I get my professional qualifications, right? So I also wanted to just walk you through my journey. I said I have over 6 years experience in investment banking and finance, right? And when I say finance, because it's not just investment banking, it cuts across non-investment banking, finance-related roles. So right from before when I went to school, before my undergraduate days, I was lucky to find someone who told me, because I struggled to get into school. I struggled, and I found someone who told me, oh, you could take the ATS of ICANN, and with this ATS of ICANN, you do direct entry into school. Literally, my journey into ICANN started as an accident. That's where I say it, or the way I think about it. But looking back now, it's a good accident, right? So I started with 8 years of ICANN, got into school as a direct entry student. I completed my ICANN while I was in school. And then after finishing the exams, I asked myself, what's next, right? And while I was in school, we had ACCA for folks from Ife in the room. You know how, I don't know if they still do it now, but professional bodies always flock campus, come with options, try to encourage you from ICANN to ACCA to CIS. There were so many options. We had like a bouquet of options of things to just do, and you had to just keep learning. And I felt I should do ACCA because it was going to give me that international recognition, and ICANN was limited to Nigeria. So that was why I enrolled for ACCA. So it wasn't, I won't say it was a fantastic reason, right? But to me at the time, right now, I won't say it was a fantastic reason, but to me at the time, it felt like the world to be recognized outside of the shores of Nigeria as a certified accountant, which was why I enrolled for the ACCA. And then I completed my ACCA right after graduating, I think less than 1 year after graduating. So then the next question was, where did I want to, what next, right? Because again, I ventured into professional qualifications very early on in my life. And it was just more like, oh, taking exams. And I didn't want that to be the reason for taking my next qualification. So I started asking around, I started asking questions. But luckily for me, I also had clarity on what I wanted to do, right? ACCA, ICANN is very accounting centric, but still also very fantastic qualifications to have if you want to break into finance. But at the time, I knew I wasn't going to do a CIS, I wasn't going to do CIMA, which I had even enrolled for. I wasn't just going to do any other professional examination because I just wanted to be qualified. The next one had to be for a reason. It has to be aligned to my aspirations and what I wanted to, where I see myself in the next couple of years. So I started asking questions. Should I do CFA? Should I do MBA? Because at the time, so many people were venturing for MBA. And when I say at the time, I was already working in investment banking. So I saw to progress back then, it was more of a function of if you have a CFA, it was a good option. If you have an MBA, when I was looking at career trajectory of senior colleagues in the industry. So I saw either they had an MBA or they had a CFA or they had both, right? So then I asked questions. Then I went for CFA. So that really is the summary of my journey into my professional qualifications, right? One key thing or one key takeaway for me is I wished I asked questions early on, or the right questions, or even know what questions to ask when I was deciding between the exams to pick. Because again, I said it was an accident. It turned out to be a lucky one for me, or a lucky guess. But so many people might not be that fortunate, because I have a cousin who I was speaking with recently, and she's writing her ICANN, and then she said she spoke with someone who is advising her to take CIPM, human resource, and she's at the junction where she doesn't even know what her next phase would be. She doesn't know where she wants to specialize, or what aspect of finance she wants to pursue. And this person is already getting an advice to take human resource, so which is not really going to be related or needed for this field. So asking the right questions would also go a long way. Now, my journey into investment banking, finance as a whole, while I was in school, I knew I didn't want to do accounting, even though I was taking professional exams in accounting, and it was good for me. And I spoke with people, they were like, oh yeah, you're on the right track, but what track, where am I really going? Even I didn't know. But because before I went to school, I had worked as an accounting and audit intern at a very small audit firm. So I had a feel of what auditing, what life as an auditor would be, right? And to me, I had so much energy. I felt like I had so much energy for auditing and accounting. I felt it was so monotonous and I could master it in no time. I knew that wasn't a field where I wanted to venture, even though that was my career ambition right from secondary school up until that point when I actually tasted what I was asking for, dreaming or wishing for. Then I remember speaking with people. I just started like doing research or what should I do? I still really, I knew I wasn't going to do accounting, but I didn't know what this was going to be. Then luckily for me, there was this conference, a NESA conference where they invited the guest speaker at the time. It was head of investment research rather at EcoBank. He spoke about career opportunities in finance, and it was just a similar session like this, but it was a much bigger conference. And from what he said, he mentioned investment research, obviously, he mentioned investment banking, management consulting, and whatnot. And I felt from the way he explained the ups and downs, the benefits, and the cons of working in this sector, it felt like, oh yeah, it was challenging enough. This is where I want to be. And after that conference, I just said to myself, oh, it's going to be investment banking, even though I didn't know so much at the time about what investment banking really entailed. So I started doing more research about investment banking. I started asking questions. If I met you and you told me at the time that, oh, your career path was going to be something around this aspect of investment finance I've talked about, if you said consulting, if you said research, if you said just as anything finance that is not accounting or auditing, we're going to be best of friends. So that was how I started progressing on just getting as much information as I could lay my hands on. And then Edubridge Academy came to campus, right? And they spoke about, I heard about Edubridge Academy before they came to campus, that they were very good with training folks who got into investment banking. So when they also came, they also spoke about investment banking. They had like a session, a mini open house session of this sort, information session where I also got a bit more information, and then I enrolled for the training, right? So I went to Edubridge Academy right after school. I was lucky to get, again, I'm not from the most wealthy background, family background. So taking my professional qualification as well, it was a struggle financially, right? So I was a bit constrained. I didn't really have lots of funds. It meant I had to save up. I had to take on extra jobs like tutorials to teach people to just save up funds really to write these exams at the time. So when IJB came to campus and we had a mini recruitment challenge that I was lucky to win, and then it gave me a scholarship to attend the academy. I was super grateful to them, really. So I went to Edubridge Academy. I learned about investment banking. I think it was 2 or 3 months training, weekend training. Was very intense, was really what I needed to get trained on what. So I from my research, I already knew, oh, these are the skills, the soft skills you need for investment banking. These are the core skills, the technical skills, but I still didn't know how to go about it. I can tell you now, oh, you need to know how to use Microsoft's Office suite. You need to know how to network. You need to know how to, but how do you really know what to do? You know what to do, but how do you do it is what everybody then showed me, right? So it took me from just hearing, or I haven't been told, or just done some research, to showing me, okay, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to speak to people. These are the macroeconomic data you have to be aware of. So when you have interviews, potential questions they would ask you, inflation, how do you answer them? How do you address this and that? So I really learned all of that from EduBridge, right? So I would say EduBridge Academy was very instrumental. But prior to EduBridge Academy, let me also dial back a bit, because while I was in school, I knew so much about investments banking world, but I just still didn't know how to get into it, right? So I had done research of what are the top investment banking firms in Nigeria. I started reaching out to cold calling. I started reaching out to their CEOs. I wasn't doing HRs. I was reaching out to the CEOs, the head of investment banking. And I got lucky to get a response. I got a response from one of the CEOs that I had reached out to. And then I got into the bank. But at the time I got in, because it was just, all I knew was investment banking. This is an investment banking firm. Excuse me, this is an investment banking firm. I didn't know what the role I was doing was going to entail, right? So I started doing operations, investment operations. So when I was doing investment operations, I was like, okay, this is not what my understanding of investment banking should be from my internship. It was a graduate internship. The experience was just posting, doing investment operations, back end work. It wasn't the client-facing experience I was expecting or I had read about. It wasn't building financial model that I was expecting or I had tried to prepare one way or the other for. So during the course of my internship, I then that was when I joined the EduBridge Academy training. So I also learned more about the different aspects of finance. So when people say finance or they want a career in finance, it's very broad. You have the front office, you have the back office. So where I was literally at the time was the back office. And I knew I had to move from that role to the front-facing core investment banking space. It was still within the firm, still within that organization, right? So again, people find themselves, I've also come across people who say they want to do finance, they want to do investment banking, and they're in this situation where they think they are doing investment banking. They think what they are doing is setting them on that track or the right track to getting into investment banking, but they are not. Right. So you also have to keep investing in yourself, talk to people, ask questions. Am I doing the right thing? Don't, and also I find some people, I've spoken to a couple of people who have checked my profile, saw where I started. They didn't speak to me at the time and they felt, okay, this is where they should start to get them into investment banking. So I would say always ask people for their journey. What is your story? That's a very, very important question to ask anyone when you come about them or come by them. What is your story? How did you do this? Because if anyone tells me now that, oh, to get into investment banking, I will start from operations or I need to start from operations, then the person has gotten it all wrong, because you don't really need to go to investment operations to do investment banking. But that is my own journey. That is how I started. It was a mistake, but that I was able to correct luckily, because I learned more about the difference between what I should have been doing and what I was doing. And I realized early on, very early on, that was an investment banking or the investment banking that I wanted to do. So after I left Coronation, I went to the next organization, which is UCML. I'm saying all of this because it's on my LinkedIn. I went to UCML. UCML is a boutique investment banking firm, and it was a fantastic, because I'm saying it was because I know they've had some restructuring done recently, so I don't really know if they're still pretty much active in the investment banking space. It was a fantastic learning ground. I learned from one of the best minds in Nigeria, especially in debt capital markets. I was doing debt capital, and right there, I also realized investment banking was so much broader than I imagined. So when people said investment banking, even from EduBridge, when I was trained on investment banking, it was just, yeah, there's investment banking, there's capital market, there's M&A, there's this, there's that. But I couldn't put my mind to how broad it was until I had experienced it, right? So when I started working in debt capital market, I realized, okay, this wasn't really going to help me get some experience, some broader experience of investment banking, like financial modeling. I wasn't modeling, I wasn't doing valuations, but I was doing some other I was gaining some other important skills. I learned macroeconomic analysis from my boss, because it was a very huge driver for capital market activity, right? Especially debt capital market, both equity and debt was a huge driver. But I still didn't know. I felt like I was missing so much. I felt I was missing so much out of being an investment banker. I didn't feel confident enough to say I was an investment banker, because when I'm speaking with my peers, I'm like, oh yeah, what model did you build? What valuations have you done? I couldn't say anything, and it felt like I was missing out, right? So I wanted to do something that gave me more experience. And by the way, debt capital or capital markets is also a very fantastic place to start, because it gives you a soft landing to some extent. It gives you a soft landing. You're learning the layout of the industry, right? Because investment marketing, I dare say, is a very big industry as well. You're learning a layout of it. You see how capital moves around. You see how everything fits. You know who investors are. You know who the regulators are. You learn so much about the markets, but you are not also doing, while you are not doing, because it's so much to learn. Remember, you are coming out of, I'm assuming now I'm speaking to a recent graduate. You're coming out of this school environment where it's just theoretical aspect. Now you have to learn practice, right? You have to learn practice.
Hi, Azeezat.
To get the practical. Yes,
Yeah, I'm so sorry
I can hear
to
you.
start. Okay, so on the call we have both graduates and undergraduates. So I don't know if it's fine to maybe talk about finance as well. So you mentioned investment banking, how you started, but finance, broadly speaking, what are like maybe other career paths in finance, maybe outside investment banking, capital markets?
Investment banking. Okay, I would come to that. Okay, let's maybe I was being too specific. Let's be broad. So when you talk about finance, career opportunities in finance, it could be investment banking, which is what I was being more in depth about. It could be investment research. Investment research is basically you work with a research organization or a research firm that advises the public, the investing public, on whether or not to buy or sell a particular stock. And this is a very, I would say it's a very narrow definition of investment research, because they do way more than what I've just said. So if, for instance, you, as an investor, you want to learn more about a publicly listed instruments, because ideally investment research should not just be for equities, it should be for both equities and debts or any other investment instruments, actually. But in Nigeria, we are very big on the investment research industry in Nigeria is very big on equities. So if you want to learn about a publicly listed equity, maybe a Dangote Cement stock, you want to know if you should buy, if you should sell, you want to know what the potentials are for Dangote Cement in terms of would the share price go up, with what sort of dividends should you expect to get, and all of that. From investment research, if you speak with an investment research company, you get that information. So if you work in this field, if you are very curious, if you are a very inquisitive person, if you like to be on top of the market, to know everything about the market, how data feeds, what would happen if inflation is this rate, what would happen if MPR is reduced or increased, and all of that. If you want to know how all of this fits into the broader macroeconomic space, investment research is the place for you to be. It's a very, very, and it also teaches you how to get data, to dig for data, to be very what's the word? Not necessarily, yeah, it makes you to investigate data, to dig for data, more or less. So you use several tools like the Bloomberg. It also teaches you how to use Bloomberg, because in investment banking, we also use Bloomberg, but we can always reach out to our colleagues in investment research to just get this data for us. But if you get this information or you work in investment research, you know how to get all of this information, to spool for information. And as we all know, the world is transitioning gradually into an data analytics space where data is king, right? Data is in new gold. So everyone needs data. Investment research would also train you on how to get that. Then there is also management consulting. So management consulting is the likes of McKinsey. I'm just going to drop names now of top management consulting firms, Bain and BCG, Boston Consulting Group, Bain and Co. and whatnot. So these companies I've mentioned now, what they do is, as a company or even as an individual, if you need to do market study or you need to do feasibility study about a new market, as an investor, you want to venture into this new market where you have zero knowledge, you don't know anything about it, you want someone to do that market digging for you, to give you that comprehensive report on what are the potentials in this market, what should you do, what should you watch out for. That's management consulting. And this is, again, all of these definitions I'm giving you is very, very narrow. Something else they also do is they help with companies they help to research issues with companies, dig for opportunities in the market for an existing company, check for weaknesses in the company. You find companies say, oh, they've commissioned maybe a McKinsey to do a report on their corporate restructuring or issues that they think they are facing. So if as an organization you think you are struggling with maybe sales, for instance, or you just launch a new product and it's not selling, or you're not getting the kind of reception that you expected from the market, you want to know, should you kill that that product? Should you improve on that product? So you can either have an in-house team that is more like your business development team that does market research and all of that. But again, as a company, you have limited resource at your expense, right? You don't want to, maybe your team is doing fantastic, but again, they are limited in the capacity of what they can do. You want to recruit a professional who would give you that report, who would give you that, should you do this, should you not do this? See them as like an advisor, right? An advisor to a company on how should they go about their strategy and all of that. That's what a management consultant would do. You reach out to these management consulting firms to ask them to get you this report, get you this feasibility study. And again, in finance, I know I've been referencing individuals, companies, but it's the clientele base is very broad. It's not just individuals, it's not just company. We also provide services to governments as well, both governments, local governments, and when I say local government, domestic governments, government of the country, your subnationals, also international government as well, multilaterals and whatnot. So it's the clientele base is very broad and very big. And I think this is one industry where I don't know about so much. I don't know so much about who the clientele for maybe medical field would be. Yeah, I know individuals, but in this field, I think it gives the opportunity to be anything, to be with anyone at any time. So you can be, if you're a management consultant, for instance, and you're advising a pharmaceutical company, maybe you're advising an EMZO pharmaceutical company in Nigeria. I think Fitson, one company exited Nigeria recently. They could have, please don't quote me on this one, they could have commissioned a management consulting company to ask them, oh, should they still be in Nigeria? Is there potential for their business? Can they still try to weather the macroeconomic storms they are facing and challenges and all of that? If you were working with a management consulting firm at the time and you were commissioned to do this research, you would be an healthcare expert at that point in time, right? The next day, it could be a financial services company, a bank, an insurance company, an asset manager. It could be anyone commissioning your company, and you have to work on this. So finance gives you the opportunity to be anyone at any time. I see it as acting as well, where you can take on any role, can take on any scripts, and it sort of broadens your horizon. So that's management consulting. I've touched briefly on investment banking. Then you have treasury, right? Or financial markets. So treasury, people don't necessarily, I have to be careful here, but treasury is also finance. But when you speak to people about finance, they would not, that would not be like top three that they would mention, right? But treasury is also a very fantastic place to be if you want to learn about assets and liability management for a company, for a bank, right? For financial institutions. And it's also highly specialized, unfortunately. It's highly specialized because you have to work with banks, or you have to work with large financial institutions. You're already used to the large lives if you're in treasury. So think about trade, right? So some of the activities a treasurer would do is trade. So you want to buy as a bank, we as individual retail depositors are giving them our funds. If you hold a savings account, you expect the bank to give you, even if it's a very little sum in savings returns, right? Your returns rate should give you something at least. What does the bank do? The bank does not buy or sell biscuit and sweet and whatnot. The bank invests the money. And who are those that invest the money for the bank? It is the treasury guys. So what they do is they invest in investment instruments. So the bonds, the commercial papers, which are short-term instruments, the treasury bills that are issued by the government, the federal government savings bond and whatnot. So the treasury guys are the ones who does this trade, right? And treasury, I would like to liken it to asset management. So treasury is managing assets for the bank or for the banks, right? But asset management is managing resources for individuals, HNIs and non-HNIs, because you have mutual funds. So you and I can invest in maybe a Stanbic mutual fund, for instance, that takes minimum of 5,000 naira. So you don't necessarily have to be an HNI to invest with an asset manager. So what asset managers do is very similar to what folks in treasury does. It's just that with treasury, they are dealing with banks. They are doing it at the bank level. And sometimes they also do it at maybe insurance level. So just think about financial institutions more or less. So it's very, very specialized. It is one field in finance I don't think would necessarily give you that experience of you can be who you want to be at any time. So whoever you want to be, it's going to be whenever you want to buy or sell an instrument, you're talking to someone in the finance industry. It doesn't give you that experience to work in maybe manufacturing or to work in creative industry, for instance. So it has to be, you are dealing with asset managers, they are dealing with pension fund administrators, they are dealing with whatnot. So asset managers, pension fund administrators, so these are also very fantastic areas of finance that are very lucrative, both in Nigeria and outside actually. So if you want, one aspect of finance, which I don't think is big enough in Nigeria, is hedge funds, right? So you have the hedge fund managers who just try to get arbitrary, they try to get extraordinary returns on investments for people. So they're also asset managers. They're also investing. They're just trying to take advantage of opportunities that a regular asset managers won't take. And what do they do that is so exceptional? For instance, as an asset manager, if I want to invest, I would only invest what I have. If I have 100 million naira, I would only be able to invest that 100 million naira in any security that I want to buy. Maybe I want to buy a Danksem bond, or I want to buy a Danksem's shares. If it goes up, maybe it goes up by 50%, I make 150 million, right? My capital becomes 150 million, I make 50%, that's all. But as an hedge fund manager, beyond the 100 million that you have, you can leverage, you can take on loans, you can take crazy risks where you believe so strongly in Dangote Cement, you invest 100 million, you then go and borrow money to invest again in that 100 million in Dangote Cement. So you invest 200 invariably. So when an asset manager is making, let's say, 50% return, that's 50 million on their 100 million they've invested. an hedge fund manager will be making an extra 100 million. So they will be making, their new capital base will be 300. So they've made 100 million extra. So asset managers are limited. Hedge fund is, you can make crazy returns. And in hedge fund, you don't, there's quantitative aspect of hedge fund. So it's not just looking at market fundamentals and some whatnot. So this is very specialized, right? But it's not, I don't think you can start out and say, oh, I want to be an hedge fund manager right from university. You're not going to, no one is going to, and I say it with caution, right? At least in Nigeria, from what I know, I don't think any organization or hedge fund manager would recruit a fresh graduate, except for people with exceptional talents from that have exceptional quantitative talents, skills, right? Maybe you can code exceptionally, you can beat the market or something like that. That's when I think they would consider to give you an offer. So, but there are several. The beautiful thing about finance, I've thought briefly around about 5, but trust me, it's way broader than all of these careers that I've mentioned. Beyond these 5, if you start researching, you find lots more, and you find sometimes that it's even very fragmented, right? The industry is very fragmented, but it's also consolidated. It's fragmented and consolidated in the sense that as an asset manager, you can move from asset management to treasury. I've said those two are very alike. You can move from asset management to investment banking. You can move from investment research. This one, in fact, if you look at profile of top investment bankers in Nigeria, you find some of them either have investment research background, or that means they started from investment research, or they started from sometimes management consulting, because the skills in finance are transferable. The skills in finance are transferable. The financial model you build for companies in investment banking, either to advise them on how to sell, to help them sell in M&A, sell side M&A or buy side, is the same financial model. It's not the exact same template, but the skills, the knowledge of how to build a financial model that you know from investment banking is also applies to every other aspect, right? From investment banking to investment research, the research you know how to do, the Bloomberg terminals that you know how to use in investment research is the same Bloomberg terminal that you use in investment banking, or the same tool. So it's very, very intertwined. The industry is linked, is very linked, right? So I would say that anywhere you want to start, I won't advise, because I've said, oh, the industry is very intertwined, that you should then up around, move from one sector to the other, or move from one, because again, sometimes you might need to learn the specifics of an aspect that you want to go into. So the skills are broadly the same, but for an asset manager, for instance, you need to make trade calls, right? You have funds that you want to invest. You need to make trade calls. You need to know how to interact with traders, the treasury folks, the pension fund administrator. But for an investment banker, you don't necessarily need to make any trade calls, because especially if you are, depending on the arm of investment banking that you are in, if you are in M&A, for instance, you don't have to make any trade call. You don't have to call anyone to ask them any question, right? So it's intertwined, but still just I would say, make a very, be very intentional with your career plans and moves. Don't opt from one to the other. Then one other aspect of finance that I haven't mentioned is private equity. There's private equity, there's development finance, and I didn't really start with those for fresh graduates, because these are just like hedge funds, right? These are industries or subsect of finance where they want you to really know what you are doing, right? They want you to really know what you are doing before they take you on, because they don't have that similar patience like an investment banker would have, or like a big four firm would have to train you. So they want you to know what you are doing before you then come into this sector, or to come into this space, right? So again, as I've said earlier, all of these industries are very intertwined. Private equity, what does a private equity firm does? they get funds from investors, right? They're like an investment banking firm as well. They get funds from investors. They invest the funds that they've gotten in actual companies. They're involved in managing these companies that they've invested in to make sure that these companies become profitable. So they could take either a already matured existing company and try to just improve operational efficiency, cut costs, so that way it becomes more profitable. That could be one strategy for a private equity firm. Or they go out, they just like to buy distressed companies. So companies that are struggling, but that they see potential in the market. Maybe it's just due to poor management. That's why the business isn't profitable, right? They could that could be their strategy. So for a private equity firm who have all of these different strategies, different private equity firms, there are different strategies. Some are very they're generalists, right? They do almost everything and anything. Both sectors, they don't care strategy, they just do anything that comes their way. They need people who already know what it takes to value a company. They need people who knows what it takes to raise capital, to manage companies, to be involved. So these are very specialized. And I know because again, these subsets they are more lucrative, right? Because at the end of the day, we are trading our human capital for cash in form of salaries and wages or whatnot. So they are more lucrative because I remember when I was doing my research for career opportunities in finance, investment banking is good paying. Private equity pays way more than the investment banking firms would pay. I remember I was like, oh yeah, it's private equity I want to do. I don't want to do investment banking. People were laughing at me because you won't get into private equity with zero knowledge, right? Or almost zero knowledge. So they need you to get, even if it is 1 or 2 years experience in investment banking before you then venture into these setups. Then with development finance, which is what I currently do now, it's also very, very similar to investment banking. But it's private, it's similar to private equity and investment banking. I would say it's at an intersection of private equity and investment banking. So what we do, or some of the things that we do in development finances, we give funds to companies to help them grow. Just like private equity firms will take companies, will take cash. I'm sorry, guys. I think I have spoken for so long. I've gotten a prompt that we need to move to Q&A. I'll just wrap up on this one and then we'll take questions. Then I'll come back to the lessons I think is very important for everyone to take away. My career lessons I would like to share with everyone. So as I was saying, with development finance, we take funds from, we either take funds from our own balance sheets or raise funds from other people. And then we, from other, when I say people, investors, then we give these funds to companies to invest. We invest in these companies. So in our investments, we want returns. So our returns could either be interest, we could either what's interest in the companies, it could either give them loans that they would pay interest on, or it could be that we've invested equity in them. We strongly believe that the company will be able to pay dividends in future, or they're going to pay dividends now. Or we think that the company, if it's private, if the private company, we think that it has potential to list in the market. The company would list, it will become very profitable, we get money out of it. Our share price would appreciate and all of that. So it's also very, very similar to investment banking, where it's all about capital. All of this finance, when you think about finance, think about it as it's about capital or making a company better. Making a company better and putting funds in the pocket of, or in doing something that is value accretive to companies, right? Value accretive to companies. That is the summary of finance to me. If you ask me in one sentence to describe finance, is that you're raising capital or you're making a company, you're giving them value accretive services, right? So yes, we can take questions now and then.
Yeah. Hi, Azeezat. Thank you so much for sharing all of these, like talking about your journey from school, how you started researching, attending EduBridge to code mailing, and for giving us a deep dive into careers in finance, including investment banking, investment research, development finance, private equity, hedge funds, and the different areas in finance. Thank you so much. I think in the interest of time, we would jump straight into questions. If you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask. But because of time, we'll be taking just one question per participant. Yeah, Kabir, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Thank you so much, Azeezat. And first of all, I want to thank the moderator for inviting you on the program. And thank you so much for taking us through your journey, your school background, your current working place, and what you have achieved so far. Actually, my question would be, I am a graduate of finance, and I just finished my service last year. So I'm currently working as a junior accountant, and I've been someone that's envisioned to work one day as an investment banker or someone that's work in a private equity firm. So my take is that I'm currently looking forward to write a certification which is on CI, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. But I'm kind of having issue whether to go for ICANN or whether to go for CIS, because like 2 diets of ICANN I've already dropped now, because I made in my mind that I don't want to go to the accounting role. That's majorly what I want to focus on is finance, because of my my love or passion for investment banking. So as someone that has gone through that in the during your undergraduate, probably say when you just graduate from school, what kind of advice you going to advise me, or what kind of certification would advise me to go for that will be a career changing, and that will add to my growth and development toward where I'm going to
Thank,
reach it. So
thank you, Kabir.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Welcome, bro.
Okay, do you want me to take all the questions and then answer at once, or how do you want?
Yeah,
How would you prefer?
I think we can maybe answer as the question comes.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Kabir, for your question. And yeah, I understand your dilemma. You want to know what professional qualifications to go for now, given where you are, and something to help you transition into the world of either investment banking or private equity. So you work as an accountant, right? So I won't, you're a graduate of finance, you work as an accountant. I won't say you should go for ICANN, right? And the reason being that if you want to do investment banking or finance, some of the things they want to see is what is your background in terms of your undergraduate studies, what knowledge would that undergraduate certificates indicate to the companies that are recruiting or the hiring firms. Having a BSc in finance says to them that, yeah, this person is broad, right? Your experience is not narrow so they believe that you know bits and pieces of economics, accounting, business administration, and whatnot. So it is not specific, which is very good. Your experience right now working as an accountant, it could also be a plus, right? And depending on what you're doing in your organization, which I don't know. Something that I can say would be almost like a very sure bet to getting into, almost sure, just that underline almost, would be CFA, not ICANN. It would be CFA and not CIS. Reason is CFA gives you, it helps you understand finance. If you're able to enroll for CFA, and I understand it's very costly now, it's expensive, and this is not an examination you want to do without being sure that in the long term, what you are really aiming for is, or sorry, in the short term, what you are really aiming for is to get into investment banking. If you are not sure, if you are still dilly-dallying about, I'm not sure I want to do investment banking, maybe I just want to be in accounting, then don't do it. Because yeah, if you do it in accounting, they would still value you, they respect you, but it won't give you that, you won't get the return on investment that you would get if you actually transition out of accounting into an industry that would value that qualification. right? And apologies for my background. So it will be CFA. You shouldn't do CIS if investment banking is what you want, because CIS is Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. So stockbrokers, it has to be that you want to be trading. You want to be a trader. That's the only time where stockbroking certification matters. But with CFA is one qualification that, regardless of whatever aspect of finance you find yourself, it is relevant. If you are in hedge fund, if you are in asset management, if you are in investment banking, if you are in investment research, management consulting, everyone values CFA because the curriculum is so broad and very deep that everyone believes that it gives you a good understanding of the layout of the industries and the skills that you need to for this industry. So yeah, it's not going to be CIS and it's not ICANN, unfortunately. It will be CFA. But if you are not able to afford CFA, and you shouldn't wait, because waiting is not in anyone's interest, then I would advise you go for ICANN, at least so you have one qualification. Because getting into investment banking, I've seen so many friends who are able to get into investment banking even without zero qualification. We have to be an exceptional talent to do that. At the minimum, most IB firms that I know would want an ICANN at the minimum. But if you have CFA, it gives you a higher edge over someone who has ICANN or ACCA. I hope this answers your question, Kabir.
Thank you so much for that. I think so. I would have go for the CFA, but due to the cost, like you just said earlier, my issue is just that to compare whether ICANN is okay or I should rather go for CIS. But since you said now, I think I will be, rooting for ICANN then. But maybe later in the life, I can do CIS and probably CFA. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kabir. Thank you, Azeezat. I'm just checking if anyone has question. Yeah, Azeezat, while you were speaking, you talked about code emailing, you talked about EduBridge and how EduBridge made you learn some of these skills. So I just want to ask, like, maybe very briefly, so what are some of the major skills you've gotten to like know are required in finance? So if you could maybe split it into maybe technical skills and soft skills, what are the skills that are needed in today's world in finance?
Okay. Yes, this is another aspect I wanted to address. You see, in finance, the soft skill, number one soft skill, there are several soft skills that you need, but number one soft skill, I would say, has worked best for me. And I think for people who I consider to be exceptional professionals, I also see that it's in them is people skills. People skills, be able to make relationship with people. So it's not just networking, because networking is just to be able to get people's card, be able to talk to them. But beyond just getting the card, actually building relationship with people, it goes a long way. So if the way most IB firms are set up, and most of your activities, your day's job are set up, is you work in teams, right? So if you don't have people skills, there's no way you would be able to survive, right? And I don't believe in this saying that, like, I've seen it circulated recently in the media where people are saying, oh, if your colleagues are not your friends. I don't believe in that saying. Some of my most fantastic friends, like my closest relationships, I've built them in the professional space, right? I don't think it is. I personally can't work where I don't like you, right? Even if you've done so much to hurt me, I would find a reason to just like you. So it makes my life easy and it makes my working experience with you smooth, because you work long hours. It is not just the 9 to 5 that you do for regular industries. You work sometimes weekends. In fact, most times weekends, not sometimes, most times weekends. You work extreme hours. You don't want to do a job that you hate. And this can easily come from not having good people skills. If you are not able to communicate, when even people definitely do things that you don't like, you should be able to forgive. You should be able to communicate your likes and dislikes. You should be able to actually show people that you like them. So it makes your life very easy. That's number one skills. Then next one will be communication. Everything you do in finance, again, I've said you'll be anything and everything. You have to be able to communicate with people. either you're presenting in public, you are presenting to investors, or you are writing, you have to write reports, or you are doing actual PowerPoint presentation. All sort of communications related skills is what you would need, and it is your bread and butter, right? So find a way to, in fact, I know a very good friend who went to take etiquette classes, right, on how to use fork and cutlery in professional settings. You need all of these skills. It might seem very basic, it might seem very mundane, but for someone, when she told me, she went to a class. I took YouTube classes to learn this. And at the time I was learning it, I didn't need it. I didn't even think I was going to need it anytime soon. Tell me why 3 months down the line, I found myself in a setup where we had team lunch, and I had to start using, and it was still, I wasn't very good with it yet. But over time, this is something that I've picked up. It could even be something as basic as that, right? So you should be ready to push yourself out to do all of these extraordinary things. All of these extraordinary things to you now that would seem very ordinary to someone else, right? Working under pressure, this is, again, long hours. People want so let me give an example of something very recent. A colleague sent an email requesting for a document that should be produced by Monday. He sent it in the afternoon or evening of Friday. So these are some of the experiences. You have to be able to sacrifice. You have to do this work, even though you are doing it under pressure, with little to no error. Little to no error. People would not say, there's something I've learned, and I think it has stuck with me now. My experience in finances, it is results that matters, not the process. It is the results that matters. Let me share one very funny experience as well. Some documents reports, a brief was requested on a company, right? Let's say the company's name is AM. I was supposed to work with some other analysts on this project. The analyst read the company's name as AN, but the company's name is AM. We had to work because it was a very long day. We started working on these documents at 12 midnight. When we were about to send this document out at 3:30 a.m., I saw it that the company's name should have been AM, but we've been working on AN. We worked 3 hours early midnight to churn out the wrong documents. Guys, in the morning, when I saw this, I put it in an email to say, please, can you confirm that this company should be AM and not AN? We were told we worked on the wrong brief, and they really needed that document. I woke up at 8 a.m., actually 8:20. I woke up at 8:20. I saw that email at 8 a.m. I got to working on the correct name at 8:20. I sent it out at 10:20. Nobody cares about, oh, we slept at 3:30 a.m. Nobody cares about that. You have to, so your attention to detail, like, it should be top notch. It should be top notch. One other fantastic soft skill, depending on the organization you find yourself. If you start in a boutique investment banking firm where you don't have so much activity, you might not really see this yet. But if you are in an already fast-paced environment, it is very important to be able to manage your time and your responsibilities. I didn't learn to do lists when I was in school. I didn't even learn it when I was in some organizations. Because you have a very long to-do list, you have to be able to prioritize, you have to be able to manage, you have to be able to know what to do, know how to manage people, there are so many skills. But top of my list is people skills, because again, even when you drop the ball, but you have good people skills, when they're giving you feedback, or when they are trying to, people would put themselves in their shoes, because at the end of the day, we are humans. And that's something I think sometimes in the professional setup, people forget that we are humans, right? I remember listening to my colleague recently, my boss actually speaking with his wife, and I was like, oh my goodness, okay, this man is actually human, because he was interacting like an husband and not as a boss, right? People forget that. So just try to have very good people skills. Now, in terms of hard skills, this is very, like, you find it everywhere. Financial modeling, I've talked about. You should be able to model. You should be able to read financial statements, financial analysis and interpretation. You should be able to follow the markets, macro analysis, know what is going on in the markets, know how to link this data. Oh, so my inflation is this, it has increased. What is the effect on maybe capital raise, what is the effect of on everything, literally, because money moves the world, as they say, and money is at the center of what we do in finance. And all of this little data or little macro events could disrupt the market. Yesterday, I said that the market tanked. S&P lost about maybe 2 or 3%. Why? Because Israel bombed Iran's base, and they retaliated. So these are news that would definitely move the market. So you have to be on top of your game, literally. You should be able to do research. Again, whether or not you're in investment research or you started in investment research, everybody needs to research data, because people would ask you for information. People will ask you for things that even they don't know what they requested. They don't know how to get. They might know how to get it because they've worked, they've had the experience, but they don't know how to get it at that point in time, and they expect you to deliver and turn it around. So you have to be able to dig for information. And one fantastic tool I found recently, guys, is ChatGPT. You should be able to know ask ChatGPT the right questions, and ChatGPT will give you the right answers. But if you ask nonsense questions, to give you nonsense answers. Or so research tools as well, that is very core and center to investment finance. The likes of Bloomberg, Refinitiv, what do you call it? Capital IQ and whatnot. Be able to use at least one of it. Be able to use at least one of it. And it is not a deal breaker if you can't use it. This one I can say with confidence, because I didn't learn it for the first 3 to 4 years of my career. Even though I felt at some point I was missing out, because my colleagues would need data. They would say, "Oh, I'm getting it from Bloomberg. I'm getting it from this and that." I was working with organizations that didn't even have these terminals or this resource, but I could ask friends to get it. Again, back to people's skills. I could ask friends to get it for me. And now I can confidently tell you that it is not as complicated as people make it seem. Oh, I can use Bloomberg terminal, I can use this, I can do that. It is not as complex, but it is not a deal breaker. But it is a good to have skill, right? It is a very good to have skill. So there are several skills I could talk about, but I think I will leave it at this for now.
Yeah, thank you, Azeezat.
So let me quickly add something on skills. Sorry to jump in here. Thank you, Azeezat. You've been very helpful. I think the way I think about skills now, which corroborates to what Azeezat is saying, is ultimately just think about the value you're adding as a finance and investment professional. So as a finance and investment professional, irrespective of the level you are in, your job is to find a client, like a firm, an organization, and provide capital or advice to them. And there are a bunch of skill sets that you need to be able to do that job effectively. So you're going to need technical skills. You need to know how to build a financial model, financial analysis, use PowerPoint to communicate your points, be able to communicate your point orally. I think we're even going into a world where it's going to get to a point where finance professionals will need to be able to use Python and be able to use ChatGPT well, so that things will get more faster. So the skills we need will evolve, but the value we're adding to the economy is not going to change. So all these skills transformation is very important, but there are many, much more skills that we all need to learn over the course of our career. So, but don't lose sight of the value you're trying to add to your clients or to the economy. That's probably what I would just add to that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shakirat. Time is fast spent. I think I can take one more question, and Fatima, I think you can go on. But yeah, I mean, if you can maybe try to compress your question such that it's like very, very quick. Fatima, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, Azeezat. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm an economics undergraduate, and I'm also enrolled in ICANN. So my question is, what would your advice be to someone that is not so sure what they want to do, like the industry they would like to pivot into? Yeah, that's the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatima, for your question. This is actually a very good problem to have. What level are you?
200.
Okay, fantastic. This is, in fact, the best time would have been 100 level, but now you're still like very much on track and on time to ask these questions, right? I think where I would start from, if I had to go back and do it in a structured way, would be to research what are all of the opportunities both the ones I've said on this call and the ones I haven't mentioned. Research the career opportunities in finance. Understand what the pros and cons are for each and every one of them. Look at people from your school, if you trust your school. At least that was something I actually also did at some point, but it wasn't structured. I looked at best graduation students in my university, right? Where did they work after graduation? What is their career trajectory like? Just to get a what my North Star should be. Where should I be aiming for, right? But I'm not just speaking investment banking, I'm not just speaking finance or picking this and that because this person is doing it. It is also because I have researched what are the pros and cons specific to all of these options. So know what your options are. I think is a very, very first thing to do. Know what your options are. Research what the pros and cons are for these options. As a person, you know what you want, you know what your plans are. Then map out the one you think, maybe narrow it down to top 3 that you think would work best for you. And in most cases, you find that when you actually do this, when you rank out your interests, the top 3 would actually be very related. They will be very, very closely intertwined in the sense that it could be investment banking, could be private equity, could be your first, investment banking is the second, and maybe private investment research is the third. That could be, and these are very, very intertwined. So I would say again, what are your options? Research people who have done work that parts, right? People who you trust, who are like top talents, and then narrow it down. And also ask questions. Ask questions even after you think you've narrowed it down. You should ask questions from people who are in that industry or that subset, because people will tell you, oh, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. Now you find people who maybe if you speak to me now, as Shakira was saying about Python, I'll tell you, if you want to come into finance, regardless of what aspect of finance you want to go into, start learning analytics, start learning machine learning, so some of these machine learning skills. Get these skills, in addition to, it's not going to be a deal breaker. It doesn't mean you won't get this job. It doesn't mean you won't get, but because this industry is also very fast evolving, and you don't know where you end up finding yourself. You could even be quantitative finance that you'll be doing in hedge fund, but this knowledge will help you if you already have it, right? So that's that would be my short and long response to your question. I hope it helps, Fatima.
Yes, thank you very much.
If I can add, Fatima, because you remind me of myself when I was in school. You even quite early that you're in this forum at 200 level, and our aim is to try to get as many undergrads as early as possible. You don't have to have you don't have to have everything figured out now, but be clear on what you want to do. Have a list. At this point, you can have a list of 9 different paths that you want to explore. Reach out to people in those areas and ask them if you can come and do an internship with them. When you actually do the job for like a week or 2, or maybe 6 weeks or 4 weeks, you see what it feels like to work in that particular kind of industry or that particular kind of job. And you can decide for yourself if you want to continue on that path or not. And one thing I know for sure in life is one door leads to another door. You may start off thinking, oh, I want to do investment banking, get into the world of investment banking, you discover another area entirely on that job. And like, you know what, this one actually, I don't like it anymore. This is what I want to do. And before you know it, you're like 10 doors away from where you thought you were going to be. So yes, please explore, talk to people, ask people for advice, reach out to me and Azeezat on LinkedIn. Ask people if you can come and work for them. People would be very open to helping undergrads. I don't think undergrads are very aware of the kind of power they have as students, because being an undergrad is a shared experience for a lot of professionals. Professionals are always very, very willing to help. Especially if you're actually you show that you're willing to put in the work and you're very structured and you basically putting in the effort. I did a bunch of unpaid internships. They didn't pay me, but the experience they gave me was very useful and I'm glad for them. But these days, I don't think anyone will even ask you to come and do an internship for free. And I don't know what else, but feel free to reach out to us. And we'll also open the official mentorship program very soon, inshallah.
Thank you,
Thank you
Shakira.
very much.
Thank you so much. Sorry, let me just buttress what Shakira has said, right? And when you reach out to people, please make sure your question was so straight to the point, apt. You've shown that you know what you want, right? Be very structured with questions. As Shakira rightly said, people will be very, very open to talking to you. I remember when I was trying to decide whether or not to do MBA immediately after CFA or whatnot. I had reached out to someone who I reached out to a couple of people, right? And all of them had the same qualification. So because I didn't want people who were biased, who had CFA and didn't have MBA, or who had MBA and didn't have CFA, I reached out to people who had both CFA and MBA. And two people in particular, right, that I reached out to. One person, this stands out. She was at the time she was the head of quantitative financing at CBN. This was a very, very senior person that I didn't even think would respond. I didn't care. I just typed out my message on LinkedIn and I sent it to her. And she tried to reach me on LinkedIn. She wasn't able to. I had dropped my contact actually. She wasn't able to, and she called me on phone. So people are actually more than happy to help you, regardless of whether you're an undergraduate or not. As long as you show like you really, really know what you want, you are just in that fix. No one wants to help anyone who is not serious. No one wants to help anyone who is not serious. So if you are committed, you show you are committed, people will help you. That one I agree with 100%. People will help you.
Yes, thank you so much, Azeezat and Shakirat. Just before we wrap up, I see Mr. Wakil, and yeah, please you can go on, Mr. Wakil.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So while the conversation was going, I saw two parts to the talk. Again, from experience relating with a number of professionals, I've had to listen and also answer the question that you asked a couple of times, and I thought there was maybe something to add in the responses, in the good responses Shakira and Azeezat had given to you. The layer of response I was going to add to it is again, they mentioned knowing the opportunities that are available, what are the requirements in those opportunities, or the exact career paths that are existent that you may want to start to streamline. But one thing that might be useful to also add in there will be also identifying who you are as a person, right? A number of time, the fact that you have all the information, sometimes if you don't know what works best for you, it might be a bit tricky. Two things happen with people who say that they don't know what they want to do. Is either you are on the side of people who are super smart, can fit into almost anything, or you're not sure, you're not confident of yourself to do anything well. See, most times it's always either of those two options. But what is important across the two is the moment you decide or you tend to understand your own person, is always a bit easier to make a career decision. So typically when people ask me this question, what I say is, yes, look out for the options that are existent. More importantly, again, speak to people, but more importantly is also to get to know who you are as a person. Some people do not like that part where they come out open and have conversations with a lot of people. They just want to be on the back end, dig all the necessary data points. Some people will fit more in terms of a career path like accounting, tax, even audit. While some people are, I want to be client facing, I want to speak more to people, then they have conversations around investment banking and whatnot, right? Even research. So again, there's some sort of personality type that fits better. It doesn't mean that it is foolproof, but it just fits better for some roles more than the other. So while you're searching out opportunities that exist, also try to understand your own person and what ticks you, or what tickles you more than the other. And again, if you're able to do a good match, you should have something more interesting to work with. Yeah, just thought to have that. Good conversation, Azeezat also. I will see you in the area we see. All right, guys. Thank you, Hassan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Wakil, and thank you so much, Azeezat. I think this is where we'll be drawing the curtains for today. Thank you so much, Azeezat, for taking your time to, talk to us through your story, talk to us about different careers in finance, about the skills in finance, and the different lessons you've taken across your journey. And everyone, please, if you don't mind, I would like us to say a very big thank you to Azeezat in the chat. And if possible for you, maybe state one or two things you've gotten to take away from this call today. Thank you so much, Azeezat.
Sorry, just to add, if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, kindly add a what do you call it? Kindly add a text saying that you are from NextGen. I would accept your connection request faster that way. And I apologize, I have so many connections requests be able to accept, so it might get mixed up. But if you're already connected, just drop me a message. You're from NextGen, then you can speak.
Yeah, that's very noted. Thank you so much, Azeezat, again. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This is where we'll be drawing the curtains. Thank you and wish you the very best.